not going to happen. Good evening, everybody. What's going on here, you ask? We're a little short-handed tonight. It's kind of unusual in that we have two of our council members off around the country on city business, and they happen to be both the mayor and the mayor pro tem. Mayor Marianne Edwards is at the International Shopping Center Convention, luring business to town, and Mayor pro tem Matt Ron is in Washington, D.C. doing some lobbying on our behalf. So it only takes three of us to conduct city business. Hi, Stu, way down there. In case you're wondering, we set all of our places up here with, especially with the electronics, and it's very difficult, not impossible, to move them, so you might wonder why we're sitting so far away from each other. We're not changing the electronics, and so that's the reason. But anyway, welcome, and we'll get started with the meeting tonight. As the youngest member of this body, I get to conduct the meeting.
And the best looking.
I noticed I got a few laughs. I thought I'd get laughs from everybody on that one. Okay, moving forward, I guess we should take roll. Oh, no, before we take roll, let's have an invocation and a flag salute. And the invocation tonight is by Pastor Gary Nelson of Calvary Baptist Calvary Chapel, Temecula Valley. So, Pastor, if you would, and then flag salute tonight to be led by Council Member Stewart.
And Council Member, my name is Frank Correa. I'm the assistant pastor. Gary Nelson is not here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Lord, we're here today in service to our city and to our country. We ask that you would guide our every word, our every thought, and our every action. We ask for your help in working together for the common good of our city. We ask that you would direct and bless every discussion and every decision made here today. I ask for your protection and guidance for our city and our state governments. They carry a heavy burden, and I ask that their efforts be of great benefit to all our community. And as we approach the Memorial Day weekend, I ask that we take time to remember the freedoms we have in this country and those that fell in order to protect those freedoms. Let us never forget that freedom is not free. And it is in your name, Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, please join me in saluting our flag. Ready?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Is Bob Bazanalos still here?
That's pretty good.
Every once in a while I get it right. Thank you for providing the background music before we started, so I appreciate it. And Madam Clerk, can we have the roll, please?
Councilmember Comachero.
Here.
Councilmember Nagar.
Good evening.
Councilmember Ron is absent. Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Mayor Edwards is also absent.
Thank you. And again, for the record, we do have a quorum to conduct business. So, takes us to public comment. I understand we have a few speakers, so would you please call the first speaker? I'll read the rules while you're getting ready to do that. See, I haven't done this for a long time. It's been a couple of years. A total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address the City Council on items that appear within the consent calendar or a matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. If the speaker chooses to address the City Council on an item listed on the consent calendar or a matter not on the agenda, a request to speak form may be filled out and filed with the City Clerk prior to the City Council addressing public comments and the consent calendar. Once the speaker is called to speak, please come forward and state your name for the record. For all public hearing or council business items on the agenda, a request to speak form may be filed with the City Clerk prior to the City Council addressing that item. And each speaker in that case is limited to 5 minutes. Now, would you call the first speaker, please?
Yes, Councilmember Comachero, we have 2 speakers under non-agendized items and 2 speakers under consent item number 19. For now, we'll address the non-agenda item speakers. The first speaker is Anthony DiMartino, to be followed by Richard Hartman.
Mr. DiMartino, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm Anthony DiMartino. I just moved to Temecula 2 years ago with my family, and I'm concerned about the increase of gangs moving into Temecula. Most of them are coming in from San Diego and Los Angeles, and I usually see them congregating under the bridges and behind stores. They're not really shooting anybody, but they're selling drugs and breaking into cars, which I have been a victim of, and vandalizing property. So I was wondering if this city council would consider increasing its police presence out on the streets. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just so you know, the police chief is here in the back. He heard you, and I'm sure he's aware of the problem, but we're doing all we can to address it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The final speaker under non-agendized items is Richard Hartman.
Good evening, Mr. Hartman.
Hey, hi again, guys. Good evening. This is 2006 stats on crosswalks. First, I want to apologize to all of you first. Last week, I went and got a DUI, and I take full responsibility for it, and I apologize for it. Let's get down to the root of this problem here. What engineering genius thought of putting a bike lane on Front Street with people coming out of bars, restaurants, bicyclists running stop signs, and speeding? We have a safety issue here, gentlemen. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 7.7% increase over 2014, worst death toll since 2008. The number of people killed while walking and biking. Federal Highway Administration Research and Technology. Researchers say pedestrian signs are better than crosswalks. Cars stopping when they should went up to 50%, conflicts dropped 50 to 10%. We need anything in place so the people of Temecula can cross Front Street in safety, like maybe the same thing you have in front of City Hall. Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies, have a great night.
Thank you, sir. Is that it for public comment?
That is for it for public comment under non-agendized items.
Got it. Understood. Okay, that takes us to council comments. Any of my colleagues wish to make any
Yes,
comments?
I'll make a comment.
Got it.
I don't know if anybody realized it, but we have a fashion week here in Temecula. And last weekend, I actually went to it, and it was quite eye-opening. One night was pretty tame, and the clothes were very, stuff that you would wear, and the next night was pretty exotic. So it was actually quite entertaining. So next year, you guys should put it on your calendar because it really was a different thing to do in Temecula.
Which one did you enjoy more?
I enjoyed the exotic more.
Mike, did you have any comments? Okay, let's move on then to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the City Council request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Item 1, waive the reading of standard ordinances and resolutions. 2, approve the action minutes of May 9th, 2017. 3, approve the list of demands. 4, appoint members to the Old Town Local Review Board and the Planning Commission. 5, approve annual renewal of insurance policies, liability, property, automobile, physical damage, and contractors' equipment, difference in conditions, earth movement and flood, excess workers' compensation, crime, and cyber risk. Item 6, approve an agreement for consultant services with Blanca Y. Price for landscape plan check and inspection services for fiscal year 2017-18 through 2021-22. 7, approve the First Amendment to the agreement with Kaiser Marston Associates for the Affordable Housing RFP review and developer selection. Item 8, approve the First Amendment to the agreement with Kaiser Marston Associates Incorporated for the physical impact analysis for the proposed Altair specific plan. 9, approve the First Amendment to the agreement with Kaiser Marston Associates, Inc. for the physical impact analysis for the proposed Cypress Ridge development. 10, approve the Fourth Amendment to the agreement for consulting services with Environmental Science Associates for an environmental impact report for the Altair specific plan. Item 11, approve and execute the memorandum of understanding agreement with Rancho California Water District for grant funding to implement expanded recycled water and plant conversion project. 12, approve an agreement for minor maintenance services with Merchants Building Maintenance, LLC, for janitorial services for city facilities. Item 13, approve an agreement for minor maintenance services with Hardy and Harper, Inc. for paving maintenance services for fiscal year 2017-18. 14, approve an agreement for minor maintenance services with Renee B. Martinez Sr., DBA Renee's Commercial Management for weed abatement maintenance services for fiscal year 2017 and 18. Item 15, approve an increase to the contingency amount for the agreement for consultant services with Michael Baker International Company for Pachanga Parkway widening, and that's from Via Gilberto to North Casino Drive, project number PW 15-14. Item 16, approve track map number 33584, located in the northeast corner of Rancho Vista Road and Miraloma Road. 17, receive and file temporary street closures for 2017 Summerfest events. Item 18, approve the conversion of the Old Town Temecula street lights to LED and approve an appropriation from the TEAM, that's Temecula Energy Efficiency Management Fund. And item 19, which will be pulled for speakers, is establish all-way stop controls at the intersection of Amarito Way and Pia Pico Road and Montalegro Way and McCabe Drive.
Move the balance besides 19, unless it's your prerogative, you want to hear 19 and do it all?
No, let's approve first, and then we'll hear 19.
Okay.
We have a motion by Mr. Nagar, a second by Mr. Stewart for items 1 through 18. Please cast your vote. That motion carries unanimously, 3-0 with 2 absent. And can we get a brief staff report on item 19?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Comachero. This item is the result of a request that was received from the Paloma del Sol Homeowners Association to analyze the need for always stop controls at 4 intersections along the Amarita Way and Montalegro Way loop within the Homeowners Association. Those intersections were at Pio Pico Road, Santiago Road, McCabe Drive, and Lena Way. Staff conducted vehicle volume counts and other data necessary to conduct that warrant analysis in March of this year. And the results of that were that one of those intersections, that is at the Amarito and Pia Pico Road intersection, met the volume warrants and therefore is being recommended for always stop controls. One of the other intersections at Montalegro and McCabe Drive didn't meet the warrants, the volume warrants, but because of the fact that there's a marked pedestrian crossing at that location, staff is also recommending installation of an always stop control at that location. This item was presented to the Public Traffic Safety Commission on April 27th, who approved the staff recommendation and also recommended to the council the installation of always stop controls at those 2 locations. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Questions? Okay, can we hear the speakers, please?
The first speaker is Michael McCracken, to be followed by Jeff Baker.
Mr. McCracken, always good to see you here.
Good afternoon, council members, staff, city officials, and Temecula residents. I'm here tonight as a Paloma del Sol resident. I'm also a part of the Paloma del Sol Architectural Committee. We come to you tonight, have this item pulled to recommend you approve it. It's a very necessary thing to do. Those areas are very impacted. The loop around the neighborhood is one of the most traveled streets in our neighborhood, and there has been actual fatality over there. Because of the condition of the street, people that drive there have the tendency to kind of go with the flow, speed up with traffic, and it could be dangerous over there. So Brad Sullivan went there, they did a survey, and I appreciate staff doing the survey and coming out and taking a look at it. And I'm here to support the item, and I thank you for considering it. So thank you, and have a great night.
Thank you, Mike. Next speaker.
The last speaker on this item is Jeff Baker.
Good evening, Mr. Baker.
Good evening. I am Jeff Baker, the Community Manager for Paloma del Sol, and I'm here in support of the association and the Traffic Safety Commission's recommendations that Mr. McCracken spoke of. And I believe that the installation of the always stops will greatly improve the safety of both Paloma residents and any persons traveling throughout Paloma del Sol. So thank you very much for considering this.
Thank you. Did your organization bring this to the city's attention?
It was our board president, Ryan Clausen.
Good. Well, it's a job well done. You know, we like to think we have eyes and ears everywhere in the city, but obviously we can't. And so we depend on citizens and various civic organizations to help us. I applaud you for doing that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Move the item.
Second.
Motion and a second on item 19. Please vote. Motion does carry 3-0. And we'll move on to the Temecula Community Services District agenda. So we'll open that meeting. And let's go ahead and take the roll since we're not all here.
Director Edwards is absent. Director Nagar?
Here.
Director Ron is absent. Director Stewart?
Here.
President Comachero?
Here. Take it we have no public speakers on this portion, okay? Under consent calendar, we have a couple of items. Item 20, approve the action minutes of May 9th, 2017. Item 21, approve the agreement with Greg and Lauren Stiles, DBA The Shortstop, for concessionaire services at Patricia H. Birdsall Sports Park. Item 22, approve the 7th Amendment to the license agreement with the Temecula Valley Museum Incorporated for operation of museum gift shop, wedding chapel, courtyard, and concessions facility. And item 23, set public hearing to approve TCSD proposed rates and charges for fiscal year 2017-18.
Move consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that motion also carries unanimously. Let's see, what do we got from Mr. Hawkins?
Well, Mr. President, just a quick snapshot of upcoming events, beginning with a reminder to join us at the Temecula Duck Pond this Monday, May 29th at 8:30 a.m. For our annual Memorial Day observance, in remembrance of those heroes who have fallen in service to our country. The Summer Sunset Concert Series kicks off on June 1st at the Temecula Amphitheater, located at the CRC. Also mark your calendars for the Temecula Art and Street Painting Festival, which runs from June 9th through the 11th. And finally, and this is one of Luke's favorites, the Moonlight Movies in the Park returns on Friday, June 16th. Let you know, Luke, that summer is just around the corner. I know Finding Dory is going to be coming soon, too. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Adams, do we have a report tonight?
Nothing further, Mr. President.
Any board member reports?
Move adjournment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any opposed? We will stand adjourned in that portion of the meeting, and we will reconvene the city council meeting. We sometimes have meetings in between, which we don't have scheduled tonight, so we're not going to go there. But we are reconvening the Temecula City Council meeting. First item is a public hearing. Any person may submit written comments to the City Council before a public hearing or may appear to be heard in support of or in opposition to the approval of the projects at the time of the hearing. If you challenge any of the projects in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the city clerk at or prior to the public hearing. And this is item 24, conduct a public hearing number 2 regarding the transition from at-large to by-district elections. Madam Clerk, you have a report?
I do. Councilmember Comachero, I have a very brief report as we are conducting the second of 4 public hearings. Over the last several years, cities, school districts, and community college districts throughout the state of California have been changing from at-large to by-district elections to comply with the California Voting Rights Act and or to avoid litigation. On April 25, 2017, the City Council authorized the transition of the city's election system from at-large to by-district. On May 9, 2017, the Council conducted the first of 4 public hearings and adopted the resolutions of intent and criteria. Tonight, it is recommended that the City Council conduct the second of 4 public hearings to receive public comments regarding the transition from at-large to by-district elections for members of the City Council, the time frame for the transition, the criteria and factors that go into the drawing of the maps, the composition of the districts, and other matters that may be related to the district election topic. There is no action item for the council tonight other than to conduct the public hearing, and we do have 2 speakers.
Thank you. Any questions of our city clerk? Remembering that this is just a public hearing to gather information for us to hear, there's no action that's required tonight. So maybe have the first speaker. Let me open the public hearing. Now let us have the first speaker.
The first speaker is Stella Stevens, to be followed by Patrice Lines.
Ms. Stevens?
The California Motor Voter Programs signed into law in 2015 virtually guarantees every citizen the opportunity, ability, and right to vote without being restrained, confronted, discriminated against, disenfranchised, etc. U.S. laws have been passed to provide equal access for everyone in education, health, employment, so that invidious discrimination and inadvertent causal conditions are eliminated and thus don't hinder people's opportunity and ability to vote. The California Motor Voter Law specifically enables 100% voterability, access, and capability. In the amendment of Section 14030, effective 2003, of the CVRA, it says at the end that, quote, prevailing defendant parties shall not recover any costs unless the court finds the act to be frivolous, the action to be frivolous, unreasonable, and without foundation, end quote. Shankman's claim is frivolous, unreasonable, and without foundation because, among other things, he doesn't have an injured registered voter from Temecula named as plaintiff, and the law requires that in order to file the suit. 14026E of the CVRA says racially polarized voting means voting in which there is a difference regarding enforcement of the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965. 14027 says that an at-large method may not be imposed or applied in a manner that impairs the ability to elect candidates or to influence the outcome of an election, the election. In the Palmdale case, the court wrote, quote, failure of the minority candidates to be elected to office does not by itself establish the presence of a racially polarized voting. In addition, city attorneys did not even address voter dilution, and because they did not address voter dilution, they forfeited their ability to argue that fact on appeal. Therefore, the city of Palmdale lost by presumption of guilt by default due to this technical error. And that technical error, ladies and gentlemen, was based on bad advice, which cost the city millions. The allegations from Shankman are circular, and they are flawed, and they are false. Lastly, it appears that the legal advice you've gotten, based on what I saw from the last council meeting, is from counsel whose expertise is outside the constitutional and appellate niche area. It's like getting advice from a podiatrist regarding how to do neurosurgery. I strongly suggest that the name of the attorney for the city of Rancho Cucamonga, who is the former deputy AG for the state of California, who in fact argued to go forward with a suit against Shankman in fight at district by district versus at large. They're in their fourth amended complaint right now, and they're scheduled for trial this fall. I believe you have information, copious amounts of information regarding law with points and authorities, and I strongly suggest that you call this counsel and also the counsel mentioned, as well as the lead counsel who's actually arguing the case. They have all kinds of answers to questions regarding the $30,000 cap that's in AB 350 and a bunch of other things. Thank you very much. I'm for at-large voting, not district.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Just for a point of clarification, although Peter Thorson is our city attorney, he's from a firm that we retain. How many lawyers do you have in the firm? Roughly?
They're all from the same.
Okay.
They are all from Thorson. However, this gentleman's specialty is not the same as the two that are arguing, and specifically Markman. He's the man that you probably would want to ask. Okay? Thank you.
Ms. Stevens. And Mr. Thorson, if you didn't hear, we'll respond after the public hearing.
The last speaker is Patrice Lines.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Council. In Shankman's flawed letter on March 2017, he represents no one, no injured registered voter of a protected class that lives in Temecula. The council started the 90 days with a resolution without Shankman following the rules and correct chain of custody. AB 350 requires the prospective plaintiff, and only the plaintiff, under the California Voting Act, First, to send a written notice to the political subdivision, which would be us, against which the action would be brought. Also, per AB 350, effective January 2017, civil liabilities limited to $30,000 cap, regardless of the number of plaintiffs' lawsuits. The city needs to file an immediate cease and desist order for injunctive relief against Shankman and Hughes, as he has no qualified plaintiff. And any further action on the part would be unfounded. The Federal Voting Rights Act of '65 is about the denial or abridgment of the right to vote on account of race, color, through voter qualifications or prerequisites. In other words, poll taxes or obstructing entrances, and this did not happen here. A violation of the law requires proof of invidious intent. This cannot be just mere accusations that Mr. Shankman is making. There is a strict legal standard that must be achieved to prevail and win. In Bartlett versus Strickland, 2009, the U.S. Supreme Court held that a minority group must constitute a numerical majority of the voting age population in an area. Referencing Section 2 of the Federal Voting Rights Act of '65, which requires the creation of a legislative district to prevent dilution of that group's votes. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Kennedy, joined by Chief Justice and Justice Alito, concluded that Section 2 of the Federal Voting Rights Act does not require state election district lines and would make up less than 50% of the racial minority age voting population. According to the 2010 census of Temecula, our Latino population is nowhere near the 50% required to constitute a numerical majority. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. Are there any other speakers? Okay, then we will close the public hearing. Peter, did you want to make a comment?
I'll make two brief comments. First of all, I agree that Mr. Markman and Ms. Aziz, who are representing the City of Rancho Cucamonga, are exceptional attorneys. Both are partners in my firm, and they are advising the City of Temecula as well as myself. So we have a good team together that's experienced in handling these matters. Second of all, the California Voting Rights Act does not include all of the elements of the Federal Voting Rights Act. And probably the most significant difference is it does not require that there be a minority-drawn district in order to find racially polarized voting. So with that, we'll proceed.
Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Nagar, comment?
Thank you, Mr. Comachero. I'll be brief. Just a couple of things, and I appreciate the city attorney's clarity. We don't know if Mr. Shankman has a client or not. I would assume that he's probably writing the letter on behalf of a client. I'm also going to assume that an attorney-client privilege means he doesn't necessarily have to divulge who his client is when he's writing the letter. That notwithstanding, I'm sure that if he needed a client, he'd come up with one. It's not very difficult to do, so I'll leave that at that. Just so you know, we've been tracking this for about 2 years now. We've been watching what has been going on all over for 2 years. This isn't new to us. In fact, Peter, is 2 years accurate? Is it a year and a half, 2.5 years? I mean, we've been... Yeah, it's about 2 years we've been watching what's been going on up and down the state of California with Mr. Shankman and all of his cases, how the courts are ruling, everything that has been going on. So we're not... What you see us doing here, holding these public hearings, is really to hear from you folks. If it becomes a bigger issue, I hope more people come and talk. Ms. Lyons, you've been here a couple of times. That's wonderful. We've got another speaker. If the whole community wanted us to fight this, and I'm not that enamored with districts myself, but in watching this and watching what's going on, we really have something to consider, and that is we can fight it on principle, and if we lose, we not only risk our own costs, but also paying somebody else's costs, which, as we've been tracking, are in the millions of dollars. And I just don't know that that's worth the battle per se. So anyway, we've been watching that. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. And we're going to continue to take public input. I think we're going to have, what, 2 more public hearings on the matter? And go from there.
Thank you. Sue, anything? Okay, with that, there is nothing to decide here on this issue tonight. Excuse me, ma'am, the public hearing is closed. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say,
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
I have an Excel spreadsheet with a laundry list of
Ma'am.
Shankman's things
Ma'am,
that clearly
ma'am,
show
once
he's
we
only had
close the
3 or
public
4, and the
hearing,
rest
you
are
cannot-
Maldef and LULAC.
You cannot provide testimony once the public hearing is closed.
Okay,
I'm
I
sorry,
just
but thank
wanted
you
to-
for that.
If you want me to send it in, I will be
Thank
happy
you.
to send it in, because it gives,
We'll give it to the city clerk, sure.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, no other discussion. Let's move on. That takes care of our traditional agenda. Do we have a city manager's report tonight?
Yes, President Comachero, just a couple of infrastructure updates. I want to remind the public that Temecula Parkway Freeway interchange construction is scheduled from June 6th of 2017 through December of 2018. And to minimize the traffic, construction will be phased, but when it is completed, this $50 million project will provide much-needed traffic relief for Temecula Parkway on and off ramps. Groundbreaking ceremony is scheduled for June 6th at the dirt lot that is being used as a park and ride. We would also like to remind the community that this de facto park and ride will need to be vacated by June 30th to allow for the construction to commence. No parking will be allowed from that point on at that location. However, there are several alternative park and ride locations in the city. They're at the Promenade Mall, you have Orchard Christian Fellowship on Moraga Road, United Methodist Church on Margarita Road, Rancho Community Church on Temecula Parkway. And you can check out the website that's listed up there to learn about other locations. We'll also be slurry sealing Winchester Road from Margarita Road to Yanez Road on both sides. And this will begin on June 7th and run through the majority of the month. We'll also be slurry sealing Jefferson Avenue from the north city limits at Murrieta to Rancho California Road on both sides of the street. Construction will begin on June 8th and also last through the majority of June. And on the south side of town, we will be slurry sealing Temecula Parkway from Pechanga Parkway heading east all the way to the city limits. This begins June 9th, and this will take just over a month to complete. And finally, we will complete a complete street rehabilitation and repaving of Margarita Road from Rancho California Road all the way down to Temecula Parkway. This will begin in June in order to avoid the Temecula Valley High School school traffic. And the exact dates are being finalized this week, so there'll be more information coming. It'll be posted to the city's Facebook page and the city's website. Obviously, a lot of road maintenance catch-up will be underway. It'll be a busy year, but when it's done, it's going to be fantastic. So I just wanted to put that out there and encourage everyone to follow us on Facebook and the city's website as these projects roll out. That's all.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Thorson, have a city attorney report?
Yes, we had 2 items in closed session tonight. There are no reportable actions under the Brown Act, but I do want to point out that with respect to the real estate matter, no action will be taken, final action, other than in open session.
Thank you. And with that, if there's nothing further, Mr. Adams?
Commissioners may have reporting out this evening, I'm not sure.
Okay. See, the last time I was mayor, we didn't do this, so I'm backtracking a little bit. Zach, since you look so anxious, let's start with you.
I'll make it easy. There's nothing from Community Services tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
We like to have spokesmen to speak.
John? See that? Any further comments from my colleagues?
Well, I'm going to move adjournment, but also liking Mr. Celestio's new haircut, so I just thought I'd...
Okay, let the record reflect that.
All right.
And with that, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.